Hello, everyone. Welcome to our GoWP Expert series. And we are back again with Tricia Clements. So, really excited to have Tricia back with us. We did this series last month and it was fantastic. There were so many people watching, so many great questions that came in. So, I'm expecting no less today. So, I hope you're tuning in and you've got your questions ready. If you're watching and you already have some questions that you know you're going to want to ask, go ahead and comment those so we can start gathering them. And I'll have them ready for Tricia when she is ready to take some questions. Really quick, I just want to say a couple words about GoWP for those who aren't fully familiar with us. We like to say that we create happiness for digital agency owners and help them to become more profitable. So whether that is through great resources like Tricia and bringing her to all of you, sharing her expertise and wisdom on Google Business Profile and local SEO, or it's our other webinars or our Friday Happiness Hour calls, or it's through our services. We're here to help you grow. So some of those services are white label maintenance and content edits for your care plans to be delivered to your clients. We also help you grow your team when you have projects piling up and you need help. So you can come to us and we'll match you with the perfect developer, copywriter, designer, virtual assistant. We're here to help you grow. So let us know what you need help with and we'd be happy to have that conversation. So for those of you who don't know Tricia, she is the owner of Your Biz Watchdog, which focuses on local SEO. She helps agency owners by providing a white label Google business profile management, and she has extensive experience in helping clients with problem Google business profile GBP accounts, which is why so many of you always come to her with questions. And you probably have seen her in the various Facebook groups for agency owners. She's always the go-to resource on anything Google business profile and local SEO. So Tricia, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for Emily and everybody at GoWP for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Coming
We're
on
thrilled
here
to have you.
and helping everyone with all the questions that you've got, everything Google Business Profile and local SEO. So this month, what I wanted to talk about are citations and also things some things kind of related to your address, your business address on Google and other places as well as it relates to local SEO. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen and pull up some stuff here. Let's see. Let me just say that. Okay. Now, all right. And Emily, let me know. You should be see the local search ranking factors 2023. If you are not seeing that, Emily, please let me know. Because I'm going to go ahead and start in on this, so hopefully you can see everything. I wanted to really start with WhiteSpark. They have every year they come out with local search ranking factors, and they just came out with these March 24th, so just a couple weeks ago. And this year I was one of the expert contributors for the survey, so I'm excited about that. And WhiteSpark really has lots of great information on, what as far as local search, what's really moving the needle for local search. And so I want to go down and basically just kind of look at some of the things. So for local search ranking factors, there's 7 real factors that are kind of key and that are looked at. You can see these: Google Business Profile, on page, signals, review, links, behavioral, citation, personalization. And so I want to focus here on citation signals. It is basically location data, NAP, name, address, phone number, consistency, and citation volume. So one of the things we want to do is basically kind of look and see at those ranking factors, what percentage of the pie is for those as far as importance. You've got the local pack finder and then local organic. And I'll just pull this up to just kind of show you the difference. When we say local pack, that is when you are on the Google search and you're searching and it has local search, and it also has this little 3-pack. Some people call it the snack packs. That's what they're talking about for local pack. Local finder is basically here in the map when you're searching in the map on Google for different businesses. And local organic, this is basically the local search engine results when you've got local results there. So that's what they're talking about. And if you look here on both of these, 7% are citation on both local pack and local organic. And so you're probably saying, well, you know, it's 7%. So why are we focusing on this today? One thing is 7%, it does have an impact, but I wanted to go over it because I know that there are some misconceptions out there, and basically kind of want to go over that just so you know what that is. And the other thing is for citations, that's something that can be done once, then maybe kind of reviewed and revisited every 6 months, or if you move, if the business moves. And that's why I really wanted to go over it. Something can be done and just kind of finished and then reviewed. But it used to be something, in the way things used to work in SEO, is that you would get hundreds and hundreds of citations and it would really, really move the needle. Well, not anymore. So I want to show you, scroll down, and we can see citation. You can see where it used to be in 2015. It was a lot more, and you can see where that's basically kind of gone down. But it still does have some importance. So want to go over a few things where you can help your clients and basically help them, but then also let them know that they shouldn't spend money constantly looking at their citations and paying for a monthly management of citations. They should use that money someplace else instead of working on citations. So again, what has changed is over time is that we now look at the quality over quantity as far as the impact on SEO. So first question would be, when we're looking at citations, so what is a quality citation? And I basically look at 3 different areas. You've got your primary category, your local, and then your niche. So primary, what are we talking about when we're thinking about primary citations? Those are things, we've got a couple of them. And first one would be Google, your Google business profile. Now, the one thing I'm going to tell you about Google is your Google business profile. Do not attach anything to it to go and tell Google updates. There are other things when you do citations where you send out information and it corrects it, and that's fine. Please don't do that with your Google business profile. I have seen businesses get their profile suspended and in trouble and have a really hard time getting it reinstated. I had one business I helped, and they had attached something to it, and I came in to help them with their suspended account, and it took some doing to get Google to resolve it and get it reinstated. So please don't connect anything. All kinds of things, like there's Yext, there's Bright Local, things like that. Now I'm going to talk about those in just a minute as well, and I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying don't connect something to your profile to send to Google to update Google. Okay. So going over things, Google was the first one. Your Better Business Bureau. Google trusts the Better Business Bureau, so that's a really important one to get their free profile. Your LinkedIn business page. So I'm going to show here. So this is my, let's see, this is my business page. I don't even know what page it is. This is my business page. So make sure that you have a business page on LinkedIn. That is something that's important and doesn't take much to set up. Here's my personal page. So make sure that you connect this with your business, that you've got it linked to your business page. So when I click on that, I'm getting here my business page. So it's really important to have both of those. That would be a primary citation. You've also got things like Yelp, Apple Maps, Bing, and Yahoo. So those are the primary citations. Google, Better Business Bureau, LinkedIn, Yelp, Apple Maps, Bing, and Yahoo. I'll post these actually in the Facebook group afterwards. I didn't really do a slide on this because it was just a couple things I was going through. The other thing is I don't really consider it a primary citation, but I do like to have a Facebook page if it makes sense for the business. A lot of times, because when I do, like we were talking last month, and we're doing searches for your business, like a branded search with your business name, I do see Facebook coming up pretty high in that. So I think that it does help. The other thing I want to show you is your Google business page, your GBP website. Now, this is not a website you're going to give out to anyone, but it's a page that you create within your Google business profile. And you basically tell it what the first part of it's going to be. So I have your biz watchdog. I usually make it whatever your URL is. And then it's .business.site. And the reason you're not going to give this out to anybody, but Google trusts itself. So if Google's saying you can set up this free website, definitely do it. I have seen it come up when you do branded searches. I've seen this business site come up. So, and I've also, I put in UTM links and codes for everything in Google. So I do know that sometimes these things are clicked on in here. So having this site and setting this up. And one thing you do need to make sure is don't tell Google. There's a thing when you are adding, you are telling Google what you want the link, the URL to be. Make sure you uncheck the box that says, oh, make this the URL on my Google business profile. You don't want that the primary. The primary is, of course, your website, which for me would be yourbizwatchdog.com. So those are two things I would just make sure that you do. It doesn't take much time to get that set up. So we talked about primary. The next are going to be niche citations. These are things like you've got, let's say you've got doctors, they have things, different citations, lawyers have the state bar, contractors have different things out there. I'm not sure, like Angie's or whatever. A lot of digital agencies sometimes, I think a popular one is Clutch. So if you're basically think of where are your competitors, or maybe if you don't, other businesses like you, where they would go out and get reviews, have citations, and basically make sure you've got information on those sites as well, especially the free ones. The next is local, and this is really, really important for local SEO. Local business associations, local chambers, local any type of local organization, women groups, or anything. If you're a member of them, make sure that your information is on their membership page and that it's correct. So those are the three kind of different citation kind of categories that I like to go over. And there is something called an aggregator. Now,
Tricia, I'm sorry. There was a quick question that came in regarding updating in Google Business Profile.
Yes.
So not attaching something to Google Business Profile like Bright Local. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So if you are setting up, like, let's say Bright Local, and I like Bright Local, I use them. And basically, if you're like ordering a citation run from Bright Local, you make sure you uncheck to give for Bright Local to sync information to Google, because what that means is Bright Local or any other platform like that is sending information to Google and saying, hey, Google, update this. For Google, you want to do those updates by hand, by yourself in your Google profile dashboard. Did that answer the question? Does that make sense? Usually when you're doing citations, there's like a list. These are the citations we can order, and you would like check them off. I think that's how Bright Local works. I always make sure I uncheck Google Business Profile, Google from it.
So you're referring to the native sync in Bright Local. You don't want to be using that, going directly into Google. Cool. Yep, I think that answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah, and the it's not necessarily anything about Bright Local or anything that they're doing. Just so you know, one of the things is, like, let's say you go into your profile and you update something, and maybe you forgot to update it in Bright Local, and Bright Local sees it and it's like, oh, we need to get that updated back, and then it kind of keeps flipping back and forth. Then Google's like, oh, what's going on? Or if you make a typo in like, let's say you're doing something in Bright Local and you make a typo and it's a little bit different, and Google will see that and not really trust it and not know what's going on and think you might be doing some funny business with your profile. So that's what that means. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about are aggregators. Let me pull these up. Okay, so in here, I'm here, Bright Local. So data aggregators. So this is another type of kind of a citation category. You order your individual citations, and then you can do what are considered aggregators. And these basically gather information on businesses and then send it out to all different all kinds of places online. There are also things that they do sell information and sell it or lease it to businesses. And this is one of the ways that when you're kind of looking out there looking and say, well, how did my information get on all these places? A lot of times it's from the data aggregators. I like Bright Local's data aggregators. They have 5 of them. Newstar, Data Axle, Foursquare, YP Network, and GPS Network. One of the things is that right now there are 5 of them. I think a little while ago it used to be 4, 3. So they buy each other out a lot. So just because these are the 4 today doesn't mean, or 5 today, doesn't mean that it's going to be consistently that. So just make sure that if you're going to do aggregators to do that, make sure that you've got the current ones that you're doing. Also, data aggregators, the way they work, if I'm going to do a citation run, I'd like to go ahead and do data aggregators to just kind of get the information out there. Sometimes some people will say, well, you should do data aggregators once a year. And yes, you can. One of the reasons is sometimes they'll look at the information as stale if you don't send them the aggregators information yearly. But because citations aren't quite as important as they used to, that's something really that the business kind of needs to decide, do they want to spend that money on that or someplace else? So if you haven't done any data aggregators and you look and you don't have a lot of citations, I would maybe do it once and get the information out there. Other than that, it's good to do it at least once. I think sometimes you might, if you move, you'd want to redo them. So different things like that, as far as like reasons you would do those again. And let's see. So let me see. I'm trying to think what. So the next thing on my list is how exactly you're going to do citations. So we talked about the different types of citations. How are you going to do those citations? We talked about Bright Local. This is a good source. I do citations for my clients. It's not a huge part of my business because of the way citations have gone down in importance. I think you can do it once and then maybe check it every 6 months to make sure nothing has changed. Do citations if you move. And that's kind of it. It's not something that you're going to really do monthly because it used to be something that businesses used to sell and say, we'll do this monthly for you. But I think especially for small businesses, it's not really worth it because you can just basically do it once and then check it every 6 months and spend that extra money someplace else, like your Google business profile, that it's going to have a lot more impact on it. And as far as, and then, so I talked about Bright Local. Moz is another place that a lot of people use. I checked my presence and for some reason, and it could be, I didn't even look at that part of it. It didn't come up for me. And I think the reason is possibly because I have my address hidden on Google, but it could have just been a glitch in the system because I've seen people that have used Moz as well. But Bright Local, I do like. You can do that yourself if you're just not looking to pay extra money for it. I will tell you that it is very tedious to do that because you're doing a spreadsheet, doing all the names, all the citations. You want to have the URL linked to it, all of your information on there from your name, address, phone number, all that information on there, and check it. And it can get tedious if you're just doing it by hand. So that's one of the reasons I don't quite recommend doing it by hand unless you're just like, you've got time and you want to do it that way and not pay for service to do it. The other thing is a lot of people ask about Yext. That's a service where basically it's a monthly service. And there's the reason I don't really like monthly services like that for small local businesses is because you're kind of renting your citation. What happens is they will Yext and businesses like that, they basically kind of lock in your citation, but they only lock it in while you're paying them. So if you stop paying them for whatever reason, then your citations go back to what they were previously, and they can be a big mess, and then you have to clean it up in the end anyway. Now, there is, Yext does have its place. I do think it's really good for franchises. There are tons and tons of franchises out there. It's probably better for them to use something like Yext and pay for that versus doing it themselves and having to keep up with it. It's usually easier when they've got so many different locations out there. So let's see. And one thing too is a lot of these, like you can see Moz, you can check your listing score for free. Bright Local has where you can, let me see, I think it's here. Basically a citation builder. You can, create your free account and look on there and check that. And I think it's like, 14-day free trial and check on things and see, what your citations look like. So that's something that definitely you can use those if you've got questions. I do that as well, so I can help you out too. Let's see. Oh, so one little caveat about if you're using a service like Moz or Bright Local or anything like that is that even though you order them here, once the citation run is done, you have work to do. It's not just like you like say you're using Bright Local, and this is nothing bad about Bright Local or anything like that, or any of the other businesses out there. I love them. I love Bright Local's really good business. But once they do the citations, you then have to go in and check and look through all of them. Some of them have some follow-up information that need to be done. It's just simply not something that they can do. It'll be like, a phone verification or another type of verification. So there is cleanup work afterwards that you have to do. So if you're looking at doing something like that for clients, be aware of that, that there is time and investment that you will have to do if you're looking to do that for some clients. So the next question a lot of people ask is, well, when I'm getting ready, if I'm going to do a citation run, well, what address do I use? Because there's so many different abbreviations, street spelled out, all that. First off, today where we are, Google and the search engines can tell the difference between things like that. Having said that, it's always good to be consistent and just have something that looks consistent across the board. So what I like to do, if you're moving or you haven't done any citations, I like to use the USPS. That's kind of the standard as far as the address for the property. So basically do a lookup by zip code and put the address in. And when you do that, it will basically come up and say, this is what you gave us and this is what the USPS uses. And I like to use that if it's got abbreviations for like parkway or street or anything, what the USPS uses, and that's a good to use for your citations. So that's just a tip on if you've got it different ways and wondering which way is better. I don't know that there's not necessarily a correct way and wrong way, but it is good to just be consistent if you can. So those are, let's see. So now I want to go back to the White Sparks local search ranking factors and kind of go over some things that they mentioned as far as reviews. Let me see. Okay. We talked about these. Okay. So the ranking factors over time, you can see the Google business profile has increased. Another thing that's big, on-page signals. And remember, on-page signals are presence of NAP on the website, keywords in the title tag, domain authority, things like that. That's what they're talking about. All right, I want to look at the local pack finder ranking factors, and look at a couple of different things in there. So if you'll notice there, number 3, it says proximity of address to the point of search. So we're looking for local SEO purposes, we're looking at, and this is the local pack finder. So we're looking at when someone's searching, where the point, the proximity from the searcher, the person's on there searching, to the business address. So that is one that's really important. It's number 3 there as far as the address is concerned. Number 4, physical address is in the city of search for the pack. And this is something, so it's important to kind of note, if you or a client is thinking about moving and you're looking for places to move the business, one thing is your address within the city limits of where that search is. So like, let's see, I'm thinking Marietta, Georgia. So you can look at the Google map and see kind of, it'll have a line there as far as the city limits, and see if you're outside of that line, you'll probably have a bit harder time ranking for something in that city. So that's something to consider when we're talking about physical address. And then another thing is, let me down here, number 10, expand it. You can go on here and look. I've got this local search ranking factor in the chat, the link, and you can look at all the different things, but I wanted to today focus on citations and address. We'll probably come back to some of this later. But what did I have? Number 10, proximity of address to centroid. So that's basically how close the address is to the center of that that specific area, the center of that city. And that's important. A lot of times when they're doing search terms that include the city name. So if I'm saying landscaper Marietta, Georgia, basically that does take into account as far as how close you are to the center of Marietta, Georgia. So that's one thing. And also, let me see. I can pull up. Yeah, that's the next thing I want to talk about. There, as far as changes over time in importance, proximity of address to centroid, that's one that has increased 260%. It went from number 36 up to number 10. I think that's up here further. I think he's got these kind of separated out. Yeah, here they are. This is what I'm looking for. So you can see is a proximity of address. So factors that increased in importance. So that proximity of address to centroid, that has increased quite significantly. So that's a reason to kind of take that into note, and as far as your business and people are searching for you. Now, when we're looking at the one thing that not quite address related, but I did want to note on here, because a lot of you all do develop websites, is the, let me see. It is number 14. Okay, dedicated page for each service. So this is one that's important. It has gone up from number 40 in the past to number 14. So especially for local SEO, having a specific page for each service. Let me show you. So basically, I've got my services, and this has the different services. But then, like if I'm saying, Google Business Profile, having those each individual pages for each individual service, not just having all the services on one page. That has really significantly increased. So that's something when you all are designing websites to definitely think about and talk with your customers about. Having those individual service pages is really, really important for local SEO. So let's see. Now, tips on your address. If you or your client is actually moving their business, one thing I would definitely tell them is look at the place that they're moving to and check and see I would try to make sure there aren't any other businesses at that address that have the same primary category. What Google will do is filter out businesses that come up in the search results based on the address. So if you've got a couple of things that come to mind, like realtors. So a lot of times you'll have realtors, a bunch of realtors in one location there, and Google will filter out and basically show one from that location. So that's definitely something you want to be aware of. Especially for realtors, it depends on each individual business how they want to do it, but for realtors, what I do for them to so that doesn't happen to them is I tell them they don't want their Google business profile address to be at their business address office. A lot of times realtors aren't in the office very much anyway. They typically will have that be their home office and hide it in the map, and they're going to be the only one at that office, at that address, in that primary category. So that's something that, as far as addresses, you definitely need to be aware of. Searching for any other businesses in that with that primary category. Primarily locate the address, but if there's anyone really close to that address in that same primary category, see how they're doing, and as far as like if they're really doing well, you may want to find a place that's not as close to them, because you definitely don't want to get filtered out, and you're going to be working on local SEO. And again, this is just things to think about and talk about with your clients if they're doing something like having a move. Next thing I wanted to talk about is since we just mentioned Google Business Profile, our suspension risk factors. And you can see number one is, and this is your Google Business Profile factors that basically increase the risk of getting your profile suspended. And the number one is address is a PO box, UPS mail store, virtual office, or other false address. So that's the number one thing as far as being at risk for suspension. One thing to take note of and make sure that your clients are using the proper address. We discussed that last month as well. You can look here, presence of other profiles in the same category at the same address. That could also increase your chance of getting suspended. Let's see. Number 5, site hacked or presence of malware. So if you've got a client and let's just say, knock on wood, hopefully everything is all the security is in place, but let's say they come to you and their site is hacked. Well, you also want to check their Google Business Profile, because there is a chance that they could have a suspension from that as well. So you need to be diligent in looking at that as well. Let's see. Since what number was this? I was looking at a couple of things I wanted to kind of show you. Mismatch of address on the landing page. GBP landing page is basically what page you're putting in your Google Business Profile. A lot of people will have the home page. When you would have different landing pages, you can have different landing pages for any number of reasons, but one of the main ones is if you have numerous like locations, like maybe you're not a franchise, but you've got like 2 or 3 locations, you would then want your address in Google Business Profile to be for that specific location that profile is for. Let's see. The other thing is, let's see, I'm trying to see, there was an absence, here it is, absence of a crawlable name, address, phone number on the GBP landing page. So make sure that that Google sees the name, address, and phone number on the landing page. Make sure that it's crawlable, and those are a couple things to point out that have to do with address. But also, again, I mentioned the site hacking. So these are things, one thing when clients come to me and they've got issues with a suspended profile, they'll say, well, I have no clue what happened. And sometimes I can look at it and know what happened. I can just say, oh yeah, this is why. But there are things like this, you're not really, some people don't really look at their website and say, well, that it's going to impact their Google Business Profile, but it absolutely can. Another thing is that once a profile is suspended, it is under the microscope, and if you're suspended, no matter why it was suspended, everything on it has to be like 100% correct to get it reinstated. So that's something to be aware of as well. The other thing is, I mean, we've got let's see, I'm going to talk about this other thing first because I've got a question I want to answer in a second. Want to let y'all know there are 5 areas that can also, if you make an update in your Google business profile, can trigger a suspension. So again, you can make changes to your Google business profile on these, but be aware of that they do have a higher instance of just simply triggering a suspension. Not that you did anything wrong, could be very legitimate change. It's just that Google looks at these things a little more carefully than other things. First is your name, your address, your primary category, the URL that you're linking to, and your phone number. So any changes to any of those things, they do have a higher chance of suspension. Now I want to stop sharing, hopefully come back here. And I want to, let's see, there was a question ahead of time, and let's see, Emily, I can't remember, there was a question about a suspension from the Facebook group, and let me see if I might find what specific. Okay, so Jeanette had a question about a client that had GBP disabled a while back, got it reinstated. Good. In January 2022, they dominated the LP, and since it was disabled, they've lost visibility. And they shared a screenshot basically saying, you know, they went from green to red as far as how they were showing up in search and getting found by customers. And that is, so once your account is suspended, it definitely has an impact on your ranking. You can really get really have hurt your ranking, and part of that is how long you were suspended for, and the longer you're suspended for, the worse off it's going to be. That's why it's really important to get a suspension resolved quickly. The other thing is you know, once you've got a suspension, once you're reinstated, you really need to work hard on your local SEO, all of the things that I went over in the White Sparks local search ranking factors. Make sure that they are just really doing well on all of those areas, because it is going to take time to get them back up. And I don't know if Jeanette is here and has anything else to add to that, to see what specific, if there was anything else going on with that, other than it does take time to get that get their ranking back up, unfortunately. And that's one of the reasons why you really want to get your suspension resolved as fast as you can. So, okay, Jeanette said useful. Thank you. Good. Perfect. There was another question I think Jeanette had as well that she posted beforehand. Let's see. So this was a Google business profile, and basically there was text included on the profile that is not in when you go into your dashboard and look, that information is not there. And so Google has somehow added that information, and it's not accurate. So for something like that, you would have to reach out to Google, go into your dashboard and click on the help, and reach out to them and let them know that that is inaccurate information. Unfortunately, there is somewhere that, and you might want, what I would do is probably do a search for that and see if you can find where Google's pulling that, because chances are Google's finding that somewhere and adding it to your profile. So if you can find where that is and possibly correct that first, and then reach out and check in with Google and see if you can get that removed from the profile. But it is not, it's not something, if it's not in your profile that you can change, then it's something that has to be addressed separately from that. So let's see, any other, let's see. And then, so Jeanette said, she thinks it's from another business. So if you, when you say it, you think it's from another business, you think that another business has that information about them and Google thinks it's your business. Either way, I would reach out to Google in your dashboard in the help and let them know that show the screenshot and say, look, this is showing about our business and it's inaccurate. And this is where we think you're pulling it from, and try to get Google to remove it from there. Oh, business that's called the same name. Yes. That is, if you've got a business with the same name, I can definitely see why Google is pulling that in. So I would get information from that wherever if it's on their website or something, reach out to Google and say, this is a completely different business. I'm not sure if it's probably in a different, maybe town or state. I don't know where the difference is, but definitely get a link where that is and then show them and say, this is not our business. Other businesses in the US and you're in the UK. Oh, wow. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's interesting. Yeah. I reach out and definitely have screenshots of those and let Google know, say, look, we have similar names, but we are two different companies, and let them know about the addresses for sure. Yeah, that's hard and that's exactly where Google's gotten it from. It's another business with the same name, and Google is thinking that they're related and putting it on there. So, okay. All right. Any other questions? Anything else in the comments that came up, Emily? Yeah.
That was also how I was just making a joke in the comments. I saw that the business Jeanette was referring to was called Country Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes sense that they would be pulling in info about American food and all of that, because I think we have 3 country kitchens right here in my town. So
yeah, definitely.
There was one question, and we might have actually already covered it, but about how does the proximity factor affect service area businesses?
So when you've got a service area business, Google, even though your address isn't shown, Google knows your address. So Google is basing it on that as far as what address they're kind of showing you in. So that's one of the reasons that, like, let's say you've got a service area business, it's not a good idea to have like your address way outside of your service area. So even if it's hidden, because you're going to have a hard time ranking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah.
Wonderful. That was all so helpful, Tricia. Again, there's so many great tips that you share during these calls, and they're always super helpful. And as you can see, just with Jeanette here today, helping her kind of troubleshoot some of the issues that she's tackling as well. So that's amazing. And just a reminder for folks, if you're watching this replay, know that you can submit your questions ahead of time, and then you can come back and watch the replay if you're not able to join us live. You can just submit those questions in the Facebook group. You can, if you're watching on YouTube, you can put them in the comments on YouTube. You can send them to me, however you want to do that. But yeah, you don't have to join us live. We'd love you to, but if you can't do it, you can submit those questions ahead of time.
And we've got a couple minutes. I do have there's another question that came in from Facebook. I'm not sure what's his name, Facebook user. I'll go ahead and answer that while we're here, if you don't mind. So asking about the only way to reach Google for help via email. And so basically, when you're in your dashboard and you contact Google, there's contact support and you contact Google there. It depends on what your specific problem is, whether you're going to be contacted to them to chat or email. And at one time, way before COVID hit, you could hit them up on Twitter and Facebook and things like that. I don't know. I want to say someone said a while ago that they had opened that back up, but I'm not 100% sure about that, and I don't use that anymore. I used to pre-COVID, but even if it came back, I wouldn't use that because I like to have the support right there when you're in your dashboard, and you can basically they're looking at it, and whether it is chat or email, and it used to be, let's say that a way you could phone, and I don't know if that's still an option anymore. Usually chat and email are the two I get. And Mostly it's email, but it's kind of good because you can put all of the information there, and then they come back with the answers. I actually like email better than chat sometimes because I can include everything all in the email. And either way, you still get it emailed to you once you're done. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I've wondered that as well, because sometimes you just want to handle something right then and there and you
Yeah.
want that immediate attention.
Yeah, and it depends on the issue. If it comes up, what you tell Google the issue is, and then it'll say, oh, you can contact us via. And if chat's there, you can definitely use it. But if it's not there, it just means the type of issue you're having can't be handled through chat at that time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for bringing all of your wisdom and your experience and your insights on Google Business Profile and local SEO. We'll be back again next month. Stay tuned in the Facebook group. Sign up for our newsletter where we announce these as well. And you can subscribe on YouTube so you'll get notifications when we have these scheduled in the future also. But we'll be back the third Thursday of the month at 2 p.m.
Yep.
Thank you, Tricia, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. It made for a wonderfully educational little 45 minutes, I guess we did today. So that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, and see you all next month. We'll go over something local SEO. Not sure at this point, so if you have any questions, definitely let us know.
Thank you, Tricia.